I'm going to be talking pretty briefly today, slightly inspired by the season of changing into spring, by the season of winter changing in, sorry, by the season of spring and the changing into summer, from changing from winter. So the change itself of seasonal change and how the order of change means that we also have to be changing, and if not, there's imbalance because of order. Because of order, there's imbalance. When it's not in order, it becomes imbalanced. And because there's regulation, and maybe we could call that rules, because there are rules, or I like regulating, because there's regulation, the rule is kind of, in regulation, the rule can change because things have to stay regulated, so they have to stay within a certain, sometimes, range. Because of regulation, therefore, we have maybe what we might call unpleasant, because it's not following the regulations. So moving from winter into spring and then fully being spring enough to transition into summer, there's a few angles about this. And I took a class, an Ayurveda class, just like for a reminder on how to eat and how to, which like herbs and nutrients and things like, and I don't have my own garden, but maybe for one day. So a little bit of this was inspired from that. And first of all, in this season, differently than, most people in society, we can't really follow the winter schedule, which is to go to sleep when it gets dark very early, like 6 o'clock, and wake up with the sun like 6 o'clock, or really sometimes 8 o'clock. It means we would be sleeping like 14 hours some days. So kind of now we sort of do have to shift into going to bed and waking up with the sun and the moon. It's kind of like 5 something, the sun wakes up, and about 9 o'clock we start going inside. It's like, sure, we could be up for a couple more hours, like maybe 10, 11, but like if we really are in line with the circadian rhythm, we would be balanced. Another thing is sedentary versus active, like starting, not necessarily being in constant motion, but even letting our stretches become sometimes active stretches versus just passive stretches. Like the winter, as above, so below. So what's hidden and also what's revealed. So in the winter, a lot of stuff is happening hidden. In the spring, it's happening on the outside, but it doesn't mean that it's not accomplishing the same things. So in the winter, for example, if you're taking in good nutrients, you have enough energy on the outside, right? In the spring, it's like if you're moving enough, you have enough energy. So whilst, we might remember in the winter it was about taking in, and then you see by what you're putting out in the hidden way, now it's revealed. Now the flowers are out there, if they get good water, then they bloom even bigger, then they open their buds. So right now it's like as we move, we become. So it's kind of like we're changing into an active wisdom. And then finally, like just like these main points, there's this sense of misuse, underuse, overuse of sense organs. And during the summer and the spring, there's a lot more light. So it doesn't make sense to be on the phone as much. It doesn't make sense to be constantly looking at a screen. It just doesn't make sense. So this ties into crimes against wisdom. When it's sunny outside and we can look at the world, and instead we're staring into our screen all day. Now, if you do it for work, you do it for work. But if you're doing it just to escape your life, your own wisdom is kind of like, oh, you're messing up. It knows already. It is one with nature too. So it's called crimes against wisdom because it's not your knowledge saying, I know that I have to do this or that. It's saying to yourself, this is like a habit maybe. I want to be on the phone a lot, or, I want to like eat a lot of carbs, these kinds of things. But the sun's giving us a lot of energy. Eating a lot of carbs actually won't feel so good. Being on the screen a lot with a lot of the virtual light won't feel so good. Staying up late won't feel so good. And these repetition of habits is not following that. It's a change in time, season, and time of life. You wouldn't wear 2 sweaters and a coat in the spring. You just wouldn't do that. So you can't do a lot of the activities you did in the winter, in the spring and summer. So Now, intervention or prevention. This has a lot to do with the time of life, the season, all that. But it also is about like increases like, and opposite creates balance. So if, for example, it's a long day, going to bed late because it's not getting dark like 5 o'clock like in the winter, but then you also want to stay up late, that's too much possibly energy of being awake and not enough rest. Versus in the winter, for example, if you go to bed even earlier than 5 o'clock, that's too much sleep. So to some extent, these regulations are dynamic because you may need to prevent sickness by taking extra rest. You may need to prevent, running out of money by budgeting properly. If you're losing money and you just spend more money, you're going to lose more money. So like increases like doing the same thing makes more of the same thing. And if you do something different, you could balance it out. So we have to utilize our nervous system, which has it's called feed and breathe or rest and digest, and then also the stress or the external. So the stress or the externalized nervous system is fight or flight. It's looking outside. And then we have, of course, seasonal foods which give the balance because it was cultivated previously, even though it came to fruition now. So in other words, what was growing in the winter underground is now out of the ground. And, if we say it was very, now it's a wetter time and the winter was like a drier time. So now these drier foods are spring foods. They grew in the winter. And now these wetter foods are going to be available during the summer as even wetter. It's like a little more mild. You get what I'm saying? What grows underground in the summer is then, which is like wetter, is going to be for the fall, which is drier. And then, it's like cool and wet. I don't mean dry. There's 4 elements here, which is cold, hot, dry, wet. So these combinations go through the different seasons. So something that is cold and wet and comes out is going to be eaten in the next season. It's grown in the season where it's cold and wet for the next season to balance. So nature gives us our natural balance, is natural moderation, and moderation can be mildly unpleasant if not combined. Sometimes it's about removing, sometimes it's about adding. Sometimes, for example, in the spring, the baby cows and the bulls are born. The baby bulls and cows are born, so it's naturally a time for them to be drinking milk and not for us to be eating much dairy. Or wheat. It was used to be harvested in the fall and last for the winter. It doesn't really match what we need to eat in the summer and the spring. I hope that is good examples to clarify. And now I did a personal exercise, which I recommend, which is to talk about the most unpleasant states that need to be balanced out. And as above, so below. So I'm just writing them out. You're welcome to do it. I'm just going to read them. And this is to make it possible to have a sense of regulation. Because what's true for the hidden is also true for the revealed. So by seeing what's going on under the surface, I can see what's going on in manifestation. So these are my most unpleasant states. You can write about 10. I wrote around that. Visibly releasing psychic or emotional pus. Giving too much waste into the world. Feeling ignored and useless. Seeing the hidden objectifications revealed. Seeing no one ever made real love to me because it's in the past, sinking irredeemably. Recognizing how tiny and needy I am, arrogant to what I want more for myself when there's thousands. Of massive galaxies. Feeling like a perpetual failure without efficacy or effects, really, able to make effect. Aimless and untethered perspective, I feel lost and discarded. Seeing myself as a bad luck charm to be disengaged. Believing I'm a sacrifice and there's nothing I can do about it. Feeling contaminated and exposed by my pit of appetite, bottomless in my stomach or neck. seeing myself as too manly or cold, hairy, aggressive, proud, easy, weighted, opinionated, or unsexy. Pressure in pain and clenching tension, like my head is mashed into my neck or my back and guts into my hips because of who I was for too long. So there's clearly a sense of unpleasantness and imbalance in some of what was growing in me. And yet, these are functions of order. They tell me where I'm out of alignment. They tell me where I'm not regulating or being regulated. And it also follows the rule of as above, so below is true for the revealed and the hidden. Wish you a beautiful day of learning balance. Because today is the anniversary of death of a close friend of mine who I knew for a long time, since I'm in the early years of high school. I'm 31. I think I met her when I was about 14 or 15. It's 15 to 16 years. If I was 14, it's going to be 17 years. So today I made a commitment. I said some psalm. I did read a story with a friend who knew her as well, lit a candle, and gave some charity to a monk who practices mindfulness of death. And may her soul, in honor of any benefit that me speaking positive or advising another to speak positive, if you will, may her soul be peaceful. May her soul be able to have light on every level. And may she still be able to make a difference, even if she is not physically in this world, for making a difference for the better. Thank you.